Hi, my name's Tally and welcome to this breakdown tutorial for Sun Salutation. And I was putting this together for a beginner's yoga course that I'm running, but I thought this might be helpful for a lot of people, so here we are. So first I'm going to do a breakdown of the Sun Salutation that I most often teach, which is Sun Salutation C or Surya Namaskar C. There are lots of different Sun Salutations and every teacher will do it slightly different, everyone will practice it in a slightly different way, and that's okay. You can absolutely adapt yoga practices to suit your body and what you need on the day. So Surya Namaskar C is just the one that I teach the most often, so that's the one we're going to go through. So I'm going to really break it down, and then I'm going to give you a kneeling variation, so the same kind of movements but from a kneeling position, which is a good option if you're feeling a little bit tired, if you don't want to put so much weight on your wrists. So you can choose which option works best for you. And then at the end I'm just going to run through some Sun Salutations so you can practice along with me. So if you'd like to skip the breakdown and run straight to the practice, then you can skip ahead. I'll put the timestamp on the screen for you now. So to practice the Sun Salutation, you can use a yoga mat, but you don't need one if you don't have one. A rug or even a cushion or a folded blanket or towel for your knees might be helpful. So we're going to start standing, coming to the front of your space, making sure you've got enough space behind you. First of all, just pressing down through your feet, really grounding down. We'll take some nice deep breaths, arriving into the practice, arriving into your space. Now on your next inhale, reaching your hands up high. This is our mountain pose with your hands reached high. You can bring a soft bend to your knees, standing tall. Then on an exhale, we're going to fold forwards, and you can have a really generous bend in your knees here. You can step your feet a little bit wider if that would feel better. You can let your arms dangle, or you can grab hold of your opposite elbows. Really letting your neck be soft, your jaw is soft. And the first time you do this in a practice, it might be nice to pause here, take a little sway from side to side, or bend and straighten opposite legs. So moving into the next pose in our Sun Salutation, bringing your hands to your thighs, or that's not your thighs, your shins, your thighs, or maybe even to the floor. You're going to come into a flat back shape. So at the moment my back is rounded. I'm going to press into my legs or the floor and come into a flat back shape. I'm reaching the crown of my head forwards. I'm reaching my hips back. On your exhale, you're going to fold back down, coming back to that forward fold shape. Now you're going to bend your knees enough that you can bring your hands to the floor for a bit of support. Then stepping your right leg back and your right knee down, coming into your low lunge. And you can pad up your back knee if that would feel good. Aiming to have your front knee not all the way over your foot, but it doesn't matter if there is a little bit of movement here. Trying not to let your knee rock in towards the middle or out towards the side. You're going to keep it roughly stacked above your ankles. Pressing down through your back knee, and you don't need to sink all the way into your hips straight away. Maybe it starts a little bit higher, and then as you start to move, maybe you'll find a little bit more space. So once you've got your legs set up and you're happy, you're grounding down, on your inhale, you can reach your hands high. You're reaching up with your hands, but making sure that your shoulders are not all the way up by your ears. There's a little bit of space between your ears and your shoulders for your neck. Spreading your fingers wide. On your exhale, bringing your hands down to frame your front foot. And then from here, we're going to step the front foot back to a plank. So that can be quite tricky, that little transition there. So if you need to come up and give yourself a bit of space to step back, go for it. And then in your plank, planting your hands down, spreading your fingers as wide as you can, pressing all of your knuckles down into the ground. Your hands are underneath your shoulders. And as you can see here, I've got my knees on the floor, and that's an option. That's always an option. Finding that long line, so you're not sticking your bum in the air, you're not dipping your bum down, finding a straight line. Your core is engaged, reaching the crown of your head forwards. If you'd like to, you can tuck your toes and lift your knees, pushing your heels back. Finding some space in between your shoulder blades. You can come out and into this if you're holding this for a little while. And then from here, we're going to lower all the way down onto our bellies. Now, if you're feeling kind of tired, you can just flop all the way down. That's fine. But if you'd like to kind of build a bit more strength, a bit more control, it's kind of like a push-up coming down. But in a push-up, you kind of take your elbows wide. In this position, when we're coming down, this is kind of the beginnings of I've completely forgotten the word there, what it's called. We're going to lower down onto our bellies. But in yoga, we're keeping the elbows in. So you're lowering down and your elbows are staying in towards your side. Chaturanga, that's the word I was looking for. So this is the beginnings of a chaturanga. We're starting to build up some strength for a chaturanga. So your hands are spread, your fingers are spread, scooping your elbows in, and then you're going to lower down in one long line, keeping your elbows by your ribs. So you're on your belly. And then right at the beginning of the practice, I like to take my hands a little bit further forwards and wide. So kind of making this skydiving shape with my hands, pressing down through my hands. On an inhale, I'm going to lift up my chest, lift my chin. And this doesn't need to be very big. This is cobra, pressing down through your hips. And at the same time, you're pulling through your hands. It's like you're trying to pull your chest forwards. Then on your exhale, keeping that pulling with your hands, lowering all the way back down, keeping all that space in your spine. Now bringing your hands back by your ribs, back where they were when we lowered down. Elbows are in. You're going to press down through your hands, press down through your knees, make this quite active, and then lift up to your hands and knees. Sometimes you might skip this pose, the hands and knees pose, on the way back to a downward dog, but I like to bring it in just so that you can set up your hands. So resetting your hands, spreading your fingers wide, pressing all your knuckles down, finding a little bit of doming in your palm. So all of your knuckles are pressing and there's a little bit of doming in your palm. Then tucking your toes under, starting to lift your hips up, we're coming to a downward dog. And as you can see here, my knees are quite bent because I have pretty tight hamstrings today. So don't worry about having straight legs and heels to the floor if that makes your back come forward. Can you see how my back is really rounded? So instead, I'm going to bend my knees, lift my hips up as high as I can, finding that straight line from my hips all the way down to my wrists. And if this is the first one you're practicing today, you might want to pedal out your feet if that would feel good, or finding a moment of stillness, keeping all that space across your chest, keeping space across your upper back. So again, you're not getting your ears and shoulders really close together, you've still got space between your ears and your shoulders, space for your neck. And it's also imagining here that your elbows are scooping in. So just like we did when we lowered down, your elbows are scooping in. You're doing the same kind of movement when you're in your downward dog. So your elbows are not going out wide, you're scooping them in. I'm not sure if you can see that, it might just be off the camera. Okay, so this is your downward dog. Very common pose in a lot of flowing classes. So from your downward dog, we're going to transition back to your lunge. And this is sometimes quite a tricky transition. So I'll really break it down for you. Pressing down through your hands. Sometimes teachers might cue to lift up your right leg and come to a three-legged dog in the meantime. So you can do that if you'd like to, but not essential. So what we're going to do is step that right leg forwards. So either just coming from downward dog or from your three-legged dog, you're going to bring your right knee towards your nose underneath you. From here, really pressing through your hands, doming through your upper back. And you can pause here as long as you'd like to. Keeping that height and lift, I'm coming onto the toes of my back foot, then stepping your right foot down in between your hands. Maybe it comes here and you want to just shuffle your foot forwards a little bit. That's okay. dropping your back knee down. Here you can make any adjustments you need to, getting your legs set up for your lunge on this side. Once your legs are set up, sweeping your hands high on an inhale. Making sure your knee is in a good place. And here you're really drawing that front leg, drawing that hip back. So I don't know if you can see, so I'm not like coming to the side, I'm drawing that hip back so that my hips are level across my lower back. Space between your shoulders and your ears, pressing down through your feet and through your back knee and lifting up through your hands. You can even lift your gaze a little bit. There is a pose where you'll go right back into a back bend, but that's not what we're doing here. We're just finding that bit of lift. When you're ready, bringing your hands back down to frame your front foot. And then from here, you're going to step your back foot forwards. So you can take some weight into your hands, lift up that back knee, take as many steps as you need to get your back foot forward. So we're coming back into that standing fold. So again, having your feet in a good place, releasing down into your fold. On your inhale, we'll come back up to that halfway lift, reaching the crown over your head forwards, that flat back. Exhale to fold all the way back down. On an inhale, rolling all the way up to standing. So teachers will cue this in a different way. I like to roll up. So starting with your lower back, the upper body is heavy, rolling up slowly, bit by bit. So your head comes up last. Once you're standing fully, then sending your hands high again. And on your exhale, bring your palms together and bring your hands in front of your heart center. So that was your Sun Salutation C, Surya Namaskar C, on one side. So we're going to do the same on the other side now. So I'll go a little bit quicker, but I will still describe what we're doing. So you're in your mountain pose, Tadasana, pressing down through your feet. On your inhale, sending your hands high. On your exhale, folding down, standing fold. As you become more practiced with this, maybe starting to get your hips over your heels. That might be something you're working towards. On your inhale, coming to your halfway lift, hands to thighs or shin or to the floor, just having that flat back. Exhale, fold. Planting your hands, left leg back this time, left knee down. And don't worry at any point if you get your lefts and rights mixed up. As long as you do the other side, then that's fine. So setting up your legs, your low lunge legs, just like we did on the other side, lifting up your hands. And maybe you find this is the second time that we're doing this, that you can sink a little bit deeper with your hips. But you're not trying to sink your hips all the way down to the ground. That's not what yoga's about. If there's any pain backing out of this, and you're not trying to push to 100% all the time, sometimes it's just finding that edge, listening to your body. On your exhale, bringing your hands down to frame your front foot. So hands on either side of your foot, pressing your hands down, stepping that foot back. And again, sometimes a step back can be kind of tricky. There's not enough room, so you can lift up your hand, step it back, and then put your hand down. Pressing down through your hands, coming into your plank. So knees down or tucking your toes and lifting your knees up, finding that long line, reaching the crown of your head forwards and reaching your heels and your tailbone back. And then elbows scooping in, lowering down in one long line, all the way down to your belly. Hands slightly forwards and wide. On your inhale, lifting your chest, lifting your chin. On your exhale, pulling through your hands, lowering your chest down, all that space in your spine. Send your hands back by your ribs, elbows in, shoulders down away from your ears. Press through your hands, find a bit of activity. Tuck your toes, press through your toes, lifting up to your hands and knees. Setting your hands if you need to, toes are tucked, and then coming back to your downward dog. Seeing how that last downward dog felt, See if you want to make any changes. Maybe it would feel better to have your hands turned outward slightly or turned inward slightly. See how that feels on your wrist. If you've got any hypermobility in your elbows, then bring a little bend in your hands. And notice that my hands are still scooped in. So if I was in my downward dog, if I was to bend my elbows all the way, they're coming underneath me, not wide. So that's the kind of shoulder position that you're looking for. Space between your ears and your shoulders, your neck is loose. Maybe working towards pedaling your feet out, heels reaching towards the floor, but maybe they don't get there. That's totally fine. Lifting your hips up high. And from here, we're going to step the left leg forward. So maybe you're lifting that leg up, or maybe you just bring your knee towards your face underneath you, press through your hands, leaning forwards over your hands, toes of your back foot, then stepping your left foot down, making any adjustments, dropping your right knee down, setting up your legs. Inhale to sweep your hands high, low lunge. Exhale, bringing your hands back down. Pressing into your front foot, taking your back foot, stepping it forwards, reaching down into your fold. Here, if you've got any tightness in your wrists, this might be a good place to roll your wrists out. Planks and downward dogs can be quite a lot on your wrists. On your inhale, coming to your flat back, halfway lift. And here, your shoulders are still away from your ears, so you're not hunched all the way up. I don't know if you can see that with my jumper. Reaching your neck long, reaching your elbows back almost as well. Exhale to fold. Pressing down through your feet. Inhale, rolling up to your mountain pose, to standing, taking your time. Sometimes coming from fold to standing, it might give you a bit of a head rush, so really taking your time to come up. Once you're in your mountain, sending your hands high. Exhale, hands to heart, pressing your palms together. Well done, everyone. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Doing sun salutations really slowly is more challenging than doing it quickly. Sometimes people will really rush through them, but it's good to take your time. So that can be a really nice thing just to do first thing in the morning. Maybe you just run through a couple of sun salutations to salute the sun. That is what we're doing in a sun salutation. We are saluting the sun, especially when you're in your lunge and you sweep your hands high. I like to imagine the sun rising there. So now I'm going to give you an option to do on your knees. So I'm going to tell you the equivalent of what you're doing. So if at any point, maybe later when we're just running through a couple of practices, or if you're in a class and the teacher cues you to do a sun salutation, you can take this option instead and still be in time with the rest of the class. So you're starting on your knees. This is called hero's pose, a kneeling position. And this is kind of like our mountain pose, that beginning. On your inhale, you're going to come up to a high kneeling shape and sweeping your hands high. So this is like our high kneeling. This is like our mountain with our hands high, sorry. On your exhale, coming down to your hands and knees. So this is kind of like your standing forwards fold. Pressing down through your hands, knees underneath your hips. On your inhale, you're going to drop through your belly and lift your gaze. So this is a cow pose. We're coming through a cat-cow here. On your exhale, rounding through your back and tucking your chin, pressing your hands, rounding through your back, and then coming back to a neutral spine. And then here it's very similar, taking your right leg, stepping your foot in between your hands. And did you see I moved my hand out of the way there to give myself a bit of space? Pressing down with your feet, inhaling, sweeping your hands high. So this is just the same as the low lunge we did in the standing sun salutation. Exhale, hands down. This time, instead of back to plank, you're going to step back to your hands and knees. And then instead of coming down onto your belly and doing a cobra, you're going to do a cat-cow again. Inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze. Exhale, round through your back, tuck your chin. And then instead of downward dog, we're just going to come back to a child's pose. So sinking your hips down towards your heels, arms out long. Maybe your head comes towards the floor, maybe it doesn't. We're not going to stay here for very long. So a more restorative child's pose, I might bring something underneath my head. But just now, we're just going to stay here for about a breath. Then coming back up to your hands and knees. We're doing the other side here, stepping your left foot through in between your hands, grounding down through your feet. Inhale to sweep your hands high. Exhale, hands down. Noticing that we're moving with the breath here. So the first time we were going quite slowly. Stepping that foot back, coming through your cat-cow. Inhale, drop through your belly, lift your gaze. Exhale, round. Back to a flat back, hands and knees, and then sitting back onto your heels. Inhale, hands high. Exhale, hands to heart. So we'll do that on the other side. On your inhale, sorry, I missed. Coming up high onto your knees, sending your hands high. Exhale down to your hands and knees. Inhale, drop through your belly, lift your gaze. Really dropping your belly low, arching through your back, and then pressing your hands away, doming through your upper back, imagining your shoulder blades drawing apart from each other. Tuck your chin, back of your neck is loose. Coming to your flat back, so your spine is in neutral. This time stepping your left foot forwards, planting down through your foot, sweeping your hands high, low lunge. Exhale, hands down. Planting your hands, stepping your foot back, hands and knees, coming through your cat-cow. Inhale, drop your belly. Exhale, round through your back. And then keeping that rounded back, you're going to sit all the way back to your child's pose. Finding all that space. In your child's pose, you can have your knees together, or you can take them wide, whatever would feel best for you. From your child's pose, pulling through your hands. So you're pulling through your hands to lift yourself back up to your hands and knees, and then stepping your right foot forwards. I feel like I might have got a little bit mixed up in this one. That's okay, you're just flowing, you're finding what feels good for you. Sweeping your hands high. Exhale, hands down. Stepping that front foot back, hands and knees, cat-cow. Inhale to drop. Exhale to round. Sitting back on your heels, sweeping your hands high. Exhale, hands to heart. So that is our kneeling sun salutation. So that's what it might look like if you were just to take a kneeling option. And that's always a good option that you can take. You can take any parts of that or all of it if you'd like to. So you can mix and match between the standing version and the kneeling version. Maybe you want to skip downward dogs, maybe they're not for you. You can just come down to a child's pose instead of downward dog. Maybe you don't want to come down and do your cobra. So instead you can just take the cat-cow and then come back to downward dog. So you can just choose the bits that would work best for you. And one other thing I want to point out before we come into just a practice where we're just flowing together is the word vinyasa. So you might have heard of vinyasa yoga as a yoga style, or you might have teachers in a class that tell you to come through a vinyasa. So what teachers often mean when they say that is to come through part of a sun salutation. So maybe you've come from standing and they say, come through a vinyasa. What they mean is to lift, to lower, halfway lift, come down, and then you'll maybe come back to a plank here straight away. So this is, I'm kind of mixing things up here. This is more like a sun salutation A. You'll lower down onto your belly. Inhale to lift to cobra, exhale to lower, and then you'll come back to downward dog. Or maybe you're coming from hands and knees and they say come through a vinyasa. You're going to come forward to plank, you're going to low down, inhale to lift, exhale back to downward dog. Or maybe you're in downward dog and they say come through a vinyasa. So you come forward to your plank, lowering down. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower, and then back to your downward dog. So that's just something that you might encounter in other classes. If they say come through vinyasa, they usually mean plank down to cobra and then back to downward dog. So let's get set up to just run through some sun salutations together. So hopefully you've been practicing along with me, so I'm not just getting out of breath by myself here. But if you've just been watching and taking notes like a good student, then definitely get down on your mat and start to practice now. So we're going to come to our mountain pose. Pause for a little moment, taking some deep breaths, pressing down into your feet. If you have any hypermobility in your knees, bringing a little bend to your knees. Inhale to send your hands high. Exhale to fold. Inhale, a halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. Stepping your right leg back, right knee down, setting up your legs. Inhale, sweeping your hands high. Exhale, dropping your hands down, either side of your foot, stepping back to plank. That might take a full breath. Exhale to lower, sliding your hands forwards. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lowering down. Bring your hands back by your sides, lifting up through hands and knees, spreading your fingers, tucking your toes, lifting your hips. Downward dog. Taking a full breath here. On your inhale, you're going to step your right foot forward, so bringing your knee underneath you, stepping your right foot forwards, knee down. Next inhale, sweeping your hands high. Exhale, hands down, framing your front foot, stepping your back foot forwards, coming to your fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, down. Inhale, rolling up. Sending your hands high. Exhale, hands to heart, pressing your hands together. We'll take that on the other side. Inhale, hands high. Exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Left leg back, left knee down. Sweeping your hands high when you're ready. Exhale, hands down. Planting your hands, stepping back to plank. Knees up or knees down, pressing through your hands, scoop your elbows in, lowering down onto your belly. Taking your hands slightly forwards. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Hands back by your ribs, pressing through your hands, squeezing your elbows in, lifting up, hands and knees, tucking your toes, downward dog. Taking your left leg, bringing your knee underneath you towards your face, finding that space, stepping forwards, right knee down. When you're ready, sweeping your hands high. Exhale, hands down. Stepping your back foot forwards, folding. Inhale to lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale to roll up. Exhale, hands to heart. So that was one sun salutation. I hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, or if you like to do things in a slightly different way. If you would like to join one of my beginner courses, head to the description box where I'll have the information about the most recent one. I'm hoping this video is going to be up for a little while, so there might be different dates for you to choose from. And yeah, I hope you enjoy your sun salutations and that you salute the sun today. Thank you so much, everyone.